Hey YouTube, what's up? So I've been talking about this video for a while now, and I don't want to get, ramble for too long, but I just wanted to show you guys what a sump is, how to build it, how much it's going to cost you, what you need, and what it's going to do for you, and if you need it at all. And the main reason I wanted to make this video is because so many people, and a massive amount of people out there starting out in this hobby, are so confused as to what a sump is and what's it actually going to do for you. So I basically wanted to show you guys what it is, what it looks like, what it does for you. So yeah, let's get started. First off, I'm going to start out with the overflow box. Now, here's my old one right here. And I'm going to first, one second, just let me grab one last thing. Alright, but yeah. Now, an overflow box, basically before I start getting into too much technical stuff, an overflow box is actually a drain. It drains the water from the surface of your tank, from your display tank, and drains it down, flushes it through a hose, like that, and goes down into your sump, which is then, there's a pump inside of the sump that pumps the water back up, and it's a constant cycle. Now, some overflow boxes, some tanks actually come with overflow boxes built into the tank, so the tank's actually drilled, and I highly recommend you going with something like that for a number of reasons. It's quieter, more efficient, less dangers, looks better. It's much more reliable, and however, it's also more expensive to buy a pre-drilled tank that actually has an overflow box built into it. So many people, especially ones that start out with saltwater tanks, the first saltwater tank, on a larger scale, they'll do something like this. They'll get a hang-on back overflow box. That's the newer one that I got, and then this is my old one I had on this tank. So yeah, it hangs off the side of the tank like that, and then the water kind of skims off through the inside of these, and what am I trying to say here? It's collected inside this intake box. So the intake box is actually submerged into the tank, and you can lower it as needed to get as much water as you can to kind of regulate the amount of water coming in. And then a U-tube like this right here will go like that, and then it sucks the water, it siphons the water from this into this, which is then poured over the side and drain through here and back down into the sump. Hopefully that made sense to you guys. But yeah, that's what a hang-on back overflow box is and what it looks like and does for you. Now, the reason I don't recommend having a hang-on back overflow box, if you can afford it, definitely buy a pre-drilled tank. But some of the reasons are, these things are just noisy. They really, really are. You kind of get used to the noise for sure, but it's still, especially if this is going to be in your bedroom, a larger tank with a sump, highly 100% recommend going with the pre-drilled tank, because it is noisy, so it's going to maybe be keeping you up. And then, of course, there's some dangers involved with, maybe it's kind of, it doesn't hang on very well on my tank, and plus, the box could potentially fall off and cause a flood. You have to start the U-tube, which is a huge pain in the neck. It's really, really tricky. You have to stick this thin airline tubing, about that far, and you're supposed to start the siphon that way. And it's a lot of trial and error. It's a huge, huge pain in the neck for me, at least. I assume for other people as well. I could try to maybe make a video on how to do that, but it's going to be really sloppy and probably pretty embarrassing. But yeah, that's basically how it works. You start it up that way, and then it's a continuous siphon. And then when you actually turn off the pump, this stops right here, and the water's still inside. Now, when you do start up a U-tube, make sure that there's no air bubbles caught inside of this. Little ones are fine. This one's actually not currently in use, but this one. Of course, little air bubbles, of course, are maybe fine, but if there's a huge one, do not leave it that way. Don't go to bed that night if there's a huge air bubble caught inside your U-tube, because it'll just eventually break siphon, probably within a day, maybe less than a day. And that's happened to me. Of course, I had both these running, and this one broke siphon. Thank God, of course, this one did not, because this one did not have any air bubbles. So this one worked fine. This one broke siphon and did not suck in water, did not do its job after that. So yeah, the water's drained down through a hose. And also, real quick, the hang-on-back overflow boxes are usually like $50 to $80, depending on the size and, of course, brand. I do not recommend going with the continuous siphon ones by like CPR and stuff, because there's a lot of people saying now that those things do not work. With those, an air pump actually is siphoning the water rather than just like you starting it up yourself with your mouth. And the problem is the air pump oftentimes fails and then causes a flood and stuff. Do not spend the extra money on a continuous siphon one. Definitely go with something like this if you're going to go with the hang-on-back overflow box. And of course, you stick like a PVC in there like that. And then you get the hose and put it on that way. And of course, make sure it's secure, because you don't want it coming loose or anything like that. Now, let's take a look down inside of my sump. And there's what it looks like. It's just nothing more than a tank inside the stand, collecting the water that drains from the tank and filtering it that way. I have my protein skimmer right there. Sorry there's no light. This is actually the light that was in there and it kept falling off, so I just now use it as a flashlight. But there's a protein skimmer in that column. This is actually a wet-dry filter, but it easily converted into just a sump. But yeah, it goes in that way, comes through there. It's cleaned up by the protein skimmer, and then back up. That's my return pump right there, and it goes back up in that clear vinyl tubing, back on the tank through that right there. Now, one thing you want to make sure of, real quick, just keep this in mind. For me, I was really, for some reason, intimidated by having to try to match up the overflow box with the return pump. I was like, oh my god, how do you do it? Does it have to be really close, with gallon per hour rates and stuff? Sorry. So I was just kind of psyching myself out. I didn't know exactly what was going on. So make sure when you get an overflow box, it's rated higher than the return pump can pump. Otherwise, you're going to have a flood on your hands, which is never good under any circumstance. But yeah, just make sure the overflow box is rated. It can take in more water than your return pump can supply it with. Otherwise, you're going to have a flood. And this is the problem that I have with a lot of people that come into the hobby. They start going around, preaching about sumps, telling everyone that you need a sump. A sump is essential for a healthy aquarium. I have to kind of disprove that here. Now, the reason being is all a sump is, a lot of people get it twisted. All a sump is a separate body of water. You can honestly just use an old fish tank. Separate body of water, separate tank that contains things like protein skimmer, like I showed you, refugiums that can be included in there, calcium reactors, different things like that. All it does is basically does a few things for you. It hides all the junk that maybe you don't like hanging off your tank or inside your tank. You can hide it all down there, and it's not disturbing the scene you have going on in your display. And it also, of course, adds water volume, which is always a good thing for keeping a tank even more stable than it might have been without a sump. But the sump is not anything special. It's really not as complicated as people say. Now I am making a part 2, so stay tuned for that, and bye.